The Red Sox are plotting something huge. Brand new quotes from Jon Morosi, one of the top insiders covering the game of baseball, highlights how Edward Cabrera and Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins could be at the forefront of a lot of teams' radars this offseason, including the Boston Red Sox. We'll break down if the Red Sox could even remotely be involved in these conversations, and if they are and do go out and acquire one, if not both of these star names, how great of a move would that be for this offseason going forward into next regular season? We'll break down all of that on this episode of Red Sox Digest, but first, please do remember scroll down and stay up to date with everything Red Sox by clicking that subscribe button. We do appreciate all the love and support, so thank you guys. But now let's get to it and break down more pitching options for Boston. This has really been the topic of conversation. We've talked about Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, and all of these Kyle Schwarbers and all these big names that are circling the Boston Red Sox organization this offseason. But the biggest topic of conversation, without a doubt, since the offseason has started, is for the Red Sox to acquire a number 2 pitcher to pair next to the ace in Garrett Crochet. Now, whether it's Joe Ryan, Freddie Peralta, Hunter Green, the list goes on, and there are a lot, and a lot of names. A lot of them, and I mean all of them, are via the trade market this offseason rather than the free agent market, which has a few pros and a few cons to both sides of it, without a doubt, but there's no argument. The names available via the trade market this offseason are drastically better than the ones, at least in the pitching side of things, available via the free agency market. So a trade is going to have to be done. And now we're here to break down these quotes from Jon Morosi on MLB Network from yesterday that highlight 2 names we discussed last season at the trade deadline that could possibly be available this offseason via trade for the Red Sox. And we're going to discuss Sandy Alcantara and Edward Cabrera. Those are the 2 names that are very popular right now. And that is the end of the quote from Jon Morosi. And I will tag this 3-minute and 15-second clip down below in the description if you'd like to go listen and watch the entirety of it. As Morosi goes on to break down how Sandy Alcantara specifically last year was at the trade deadline. The Miami Marlins were considered outrageous and crazy for the demand and the price tag they placed on Alcantara for all of these teams, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, all of these big name teams that were elected and supposedly to make the playoffs and then make a postseason run at things, who needed more pitching. Sandy Alcantara and the Miami Marlins were demanding a king's ransom, a Cy Young winner's ransom for someone in Sandy Alcantara who was simply not that guy last year. And up until they made these demands and made the demands of his price tag so outrageously high, and then something happened. And I don't know if you guys watch a lot of Marlins baseball. Unfortunately, I was born into this fanhood because I was born and raised in South Florida. And the second they changed those jerseys from the Florida Marlins to the Miami Marlins, they lost me as a fan. But because of where I live, I still get to watch a lot of the baseball that takes place in Miami. And I'm here to tell you, Sandy Alcantara was a shell of himself for the first half of the season, without a doubt. Outside of the game 1 against Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates down in Miami, where he was good, he wasn't great by any means. For the rest of that first half, up until the trade deadline or the All-Star break, however you'd like to address it, Sandy Alcantara, and these underlying metrics prove this point, was absolutely horrible. And there's one reason in particular. It was really the walks. It was the inability to control the changeup. If you look at all of the stats post All-Star break, Sandy Alcantara was a different guy, and he was damn near a Cy Young candidate. If he was able to duplicate this in the run he went on post All-Star break for the entirety of this past season, he would have been in the top 5 to 6 in the Cy Young conversation in the NL without a shadow of a doubt. Look at some of these numbers, collecting 5 innings at the absolute minimum in all of these games. And again, this is everything post All-Star break. Again, if you look at things like the strikeouts, the numbers are way, way up, with multiple games with 7+, including a few 9s and 8s in there in the sense of strikeouts, going 5+ innings every single time and collecting a lot more wins than losses in this stretch of games. including a few no decisions. But the point is the same. Sandy Alcantara went out there and was dominant, and he controlled that changeup to almost the best of his ability, and it unlocked really the entirety of his game and really made him look like a Cy Young candidate once again. And no, the underlying metrics are nothing like we saw back in 2022 when Sandy Alcantara did win that Cy Young award. But it was the second half of that season that really revived his career, and looks like he is going to create a hell of a trade market for himself this offseason because of the production we saw in the second half of the season specifically. Again, here are those game logs. Now, in 2022, he was on another planet. There's no way around it. Will he ever get to that level again? I'm not sure, because obviously he had to go through Tommy John. He returned. Things were inconsistent. He was a bit volatile, but something happened. A switch was flipped post All-Star break this past year, and it leaves teams to question, is Sandy Alcantara the same guy they saw back in 2022 after the All-Star break? Is this something we can get used to seeing for the next year, 2 years into his career? And mind you, the contract, where did I put it? I put it somewhere. Where did I put Sandy's? Here it is. Sandy has another year of team control, or at least 2 years of team control next year and the following year after that, which would be a club option at $21 million before becoming an unrestricted free agent in his age 32 season. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Sandy Alcantara reviving himself post All-Star break trade deadline this past year, and ended up looking very, very good, and results in that the Miami could want to move him now before they get to that club option year, and things could get a bit messy with him. Try to move him at the Kings ransom point now, sell him at the highest point like they tried to do at the All-Star break, the trade deadline this past year. Teams didn't bite. Sandy went out there and flat out produced, and now it looks like they can turn back around and try to sell him high once again with a lot more time rather than a 48 hour period where they're trying to move an all-star player for as many goods as they can get at the trade deadline. And he's not the only name. Edward Cabrera was the second name in conversation. Now, his 2025 underlying metrics are a bit better than Sandy Alcantara without a doubt, and also he's only 27 years of age in comparison to Sandy Alcantara being at the age of 30. This is interesting. Edward Cabrera, if you guys played MLB The Show over the last 2 to 3 seasons, or last 2 to 3 years, I should say, Edward Cabrera had one of the greatest cards in history. Now, I'm not here to talk about video games, but I'm here to tell you there was a lot of praise and a lot of upside to this young man's game at such a young age, and he's only been in the league for, 4 seasons now, 5 seasons now, 3, 4, 5. He's completed 5 seasons in the MLB now, and it looks like he's only gotten better year after year. And if you look at the biggest takeaway, it's the innings pitched. From start to finish, look at the difference in innings. You go 26, 71, 99, 96, and then this year, from this past season, 137 and 2/3 innings. The first time he has surpassed 100 innings pitched in a season, and he really did expand all boundaries here, almost hitting that 140 innings mark. Not exactly what you're looking for from a starting pitcher, but it's definitely progress. He's getting better. He's learning more about himself, more about his body, and what he can do physically in a season's worth of work, while also producing at a pretty good number. The overall underlying metrics are pretty good. Chase, whiff, and K percentages all above league average, correlating with one another. If you look at the fastball velocity, something that fits Craig Breslow's model, if you will. He loves the fastball velocity. I'm not saying he's in the 99th percentile or even 90th percentile, but he finds himself in the 87th percentile, just under the 97 mile per hour average mark on the fastball velocity, which is really, really good. The biggest takeaway is the average exit velocity as well as the hard hit percentage for Edward Cabrera. Those two things are vastly below league average, but really the only two things below league average for Edward Cabrera. I say he has a long career out in front of him, and if you put him in a system where he could be the number 3, number 4 guy, this guy could really turn into something special in your organization, especially if he's learning from guys like Brayan Bello, like Peyton Tolley, like Conley Early, like Garrett Crochet, and others that are involved in this organization. In comparison to someone like Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera has 3 more years of team control while also being 3 years younger than Sandy Alcantara. This is a very, very interesting opportunity here for not only the Red Sox, but the Miami Marlins, 2 aces, if you will, as they still have Yuri Perez, another young flamethrower right-hander who they seem to be holding on to. But why not move one of these 2 guys, as they have some of the biggest depth and best depth in the starting pitching department in the entirety of the MLB. If you think I'm crazy for saying that, please go watch the rest of this Jon Morosi clip, if you will, on MLB Network, this clip from MLB Network with Jon Morosi, where he says that literally, he says that verbatim, how they have one of the best systems in the sense of starting pitching in all of baseball. Let me know down below, who would you rather have, Sandy Alcantara or Edward Cabrera, and tell me why. I'm going to vote Edward Cabrera. I'm going to take the chance on the younger guy and allow him to work and develop in a Red Sox system who's going to give him a lot of run support in a bit different of an environment compared to what he sees in Miami. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next episode of Red Sox Digest.